The restaurant became so silent that even the sound of a spoon falling onto the polished marble floor echoed through the room. Every pair of eyes turned toward the shy young waitress standing beside an elderly woman who couldn't hear a single word anyone was saying. The elegant guests expected another embarrassing mistake from the nervous waitress they often ignored. Instead, the young woman gently lifted her trembling hands and began speaking in flawless sign language. Within seconds, tears streamed down the elderly woman's face as she smiled with overwhelming relief. Across the dining hall, a powerful millionaire had frozen in place. He had spent years searching for someone who could communicate with his lonely deaf mother, but what happened next would change several lives forever. If you believe kindness, second chances, and compassion can change the world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more emotional stories that touch the heart. Your support helps us continue sharing inspiring stories with millions of people around the world. Emily Carter was 24 years old, but life had already taught her lessons that many people never learned in a lifetime. She worked long hours at one of the most luxurious restaurants in the city, a place where celebrities, business tycoons, politicians, and famous personalities gathered almost every evening. The sparkling chandeliers reflected off crystal glasses, expensive perfumes filled the air, and every customer expected flawless service. Yet among all the confident employees moving gracefully through the dining room, Emily always seemed invisible. She was painfully shy. She spoke softly, avoided eye contact, and apologized even when something wasn't her fault. Some co-workers admired her gentle nature, but many others considered her too quiet for such an elite workplace. They laughed behind her back, calling her timid and awkward. Whenever an important guest arrived, the restaurant manager usually assigned another waitress to serve them, believing Emily lacked the confidence to impress wealthy customers. What nobody knew was that Emily carried a hidden gift inside her heart. Years earlier, when she was only 10 years old, her younger brother Noah had lost his hearing after a severe illness. Overnight, their family's world changed forever. Doctors explained that Noah would never hear music, laughter, or their parents calling his name again. While many children struggled to understand such tragedy, Emily refused to let her little brother feel alone. Every afternoon after school, she borrowed books from the local library about sign language. She watched educational videos until late at night and practiced every new sign in front of the mirror. Within months, she could communicate with Noah naturally. Over the years, sign language became more than a skill. It became another language spoken directly from her heart. Even after Noah passed away at 16 because of an unrelated heart condition, Emily never abandoned sign language. Every movement of her hands reminded her of the brother she loved more than anything. Whenever grief became too heavy, she silently signed the words, "I miss you," believing somehow he could still understand. Life, however, rarely rewarded kindness immediately. After both of her parents died in a tragic highway accident, Emily found herself completely alone. Bills piled up. Rent became difficult to pay. Dreams of attending university disappeared as survival became her only priority. She accepted the waitress job simply because it was available. Every paycheck barely covered her small apartment and basic necessities, leaving little hope for a brighter future. Still, despite every hardship, Emily never allowed bitterness to enter her heart. She treated every customer with respect, whether they ordered a simple cup of coffee or the restaurant's most expensive meal. Elderly guests especially loved her gentle smile. Parents appreciated how patiently she interacted with nervous children. Even exhausted kitchen staff noticed that Emily thanked everyone, from dishwashers to chefs, before ending each shift. Kindness had become her quiet strength. One rainy Thursday evening, the restaurant prepared for one of the city's most influential guests. Staff hurried across the dining room polishing glasses twice, arranging flowers more carefully than usual, and checking every tablecloth for the smallest wrinkle. Rumors spread quickly among employees that billionaire businessman Alexander Kingston had reserved the private dining section. Everyone knew his name. Alexander owned international technology companies, luxury hotels, charitable foundations, and real estate worth billions. Newspapers described him as brilliant but emotionally distant. Business magazines admired his leadership while gossip columns constantly speculated about his mysterious private life. Few people knew anything about his family except one heartbreaking detail. His elderly mother had been deaf for nearly 40 years. Most employees expected Alexander to arrive surrounded by assistants and security guards. Instead, a black luxury sedan stopped outside the restaurant, and an elegant elderly woman stepped out first. Her silver hair was neatly arranged beneath a cream-colored hat, and although age had slowed her movements, she carried herself with remarkable dignity. She entered quietly, looking around with uncertain eyes. The hostess smiled politely and welcomed her, but the elderly woman seemed confused. She couldn't hear the greeting. She couldn't understand the questions about her reservation. Guests waiting nearby began whispering impatiently while employees awkwardly repeated themselves louder and louder, mistakenly believing volume could solve everything. The woman simply looked more frightened. Emily noticed the growing discomfort from across the room. Without waiting for permission, she gently placed the tray she had been carrying onto a nearby table and slowly walked toward the elderly guest. Her heart pounded. She knew interrupting another employee could result in criticism from the manager, but she also recognized the look in the woman's eyes. It was the same expression Noah had worn countless times. Fear. Isolation. The silent pain of being surrounded by people yet unable to understand a single word. Emily took one slow breath before softly raising her hands. She smiled warmly and signed a simple greeting. Welcome. My name is Emily. How may I help you today? For several seconds she simply stared, almost unable to believe what she had seen. Then her trembling hands rose into the air, responding with practiced signs that carried years of loneliness and gratitude. Relief flooded her face. Tears formed almost immediately. Around them, the restaurant became unbelievably quiet. Guests stopped eating. Servers stopped walking. Even the manager stared in complete disbelief. None of them understood sign language, but everyone recognized something extraordinary unfolding before their eyes. Emily continued signing calmly, asking whether the woman had a reservation, if she preferred a quieter table, and whether she needed any assistance. The elderly woman smiled more brightly with every passing moment, her anxious expression disappearing completely. For the first time since entering the restaurant, she no longer looked lost. She looked seen. She looked understood. Hidden near the entrance, another pair of eyes had witnessed everything. Alexander Kingston had arrived only moments earlier and paused before announcing himself. He had watched silently as strangers failed to communicate with the person he loved most. Then he saw the shy waitress whose gentle hands transformed confusion into comfort without seeking attention or praise. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt something he rarely experienced. Hope. What Alexander didn't know was that this simple act of kindness would uncover forgotten memories, expose painful truths buried for decades, and ultimately change not only Emily's life, but his own.